Artificial intelligence continues to make waves in several industries. Hollywood and actors are continuing to fight it out over the technology, while the FBI has now issued warnings about hackers using open source AI tools to write smarter malware. Those topics and more coming up on this episode of Today in Tech. Hi, everyone. I'm Keith Shaw. Welcome to Today in Tech. Pushing the buttons behind the big monitor is Chris. Hello, sir.
Hey, how's it going?
Looking good as always. Let's get right into it. We're going to talk about the AI impact on the Hollywood strike with the actors and the writers. We covered this, I think, on the writer side, and when they first started striking about their concerns about AI, and obviously, the strike is also about other issues, mainly about how actors will be paid in the future, the impact of streaming services, some really interesting things about how streaming services don't provide residuals like the way that networks and other ones do. But over the past couple of weeks, there's been some stories about AI now. So AI is sort of creeping back up into the conversation. The first one here talks about a speech that Bryan Cranston gave over last week that was very, very interesting to me.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of it.
Basically, he and obviously Bryan Cranston was a guy who was in Breaking Bad and other sorts of high profile shows. But he basically said, he was addressing Bob Iger, who's the CEO of Disney. He says, "I know, sir, that you look at things through a different lens. We don't expect you to understand who we are, but we ask you to hear us and beyond that to listen to us when we tell you that we will not be having our jobs taken away and given to robots." So basically, the actors are fearing that studios are going to take their likenesses or voices and reuse them over and over for little or no pay, and with little in the way of notice. The writers are fearing that they're going to start using the large language models like ChatGPT to basically write or rewrite scripts, harming their livelihoods. The producers, on their part, are basically saying that AI should be used as a balanced approach based on careful use, not prohibition. There was another article in the Wall Street Journal, the next one that you've got there, Chris, basically saying, that there's going to have to be some sort of compromise between the two, because it does feel like AI is here to stay. It's not going to go away. I don't think the actors are going to be able to basically ban the use of AI, especially if the studios can say, well, we can use it to sort of generate storyboards or generate maybe some baseline. Obviously, I don't think they would write an entire script, because if you try that now, this thing sucks, right?
Right.
You and I have done this before, where we tried to have it write jokes, we tried to have it write fortune cookie types of sayings, and the creativity is just not there. And I don't think the studios, and again, I'm not defending the studios because I think they're wrong in a lot of other points. I don't think they're going to completely use it to replace actors and writers, but they should allow for some sort of tools to use to help either speed up the process or start as a baseline or help augment sort of these ideas. Some of the image generation things would be like, well, this can be a way of creating a faster way to create storyboards during the production process, rather than having someone hand draw a lot of this stuff, which is what happens now with a lot of those types of productions.
I see them using AI again to try to speed up the conceptualization process, maybe. And obviously that could shave off some costs from these production companies. But at the same time, I do kind of understand from an actor's perspective, that fear of having your image stripped from you and your likeness and then being generated through AI, and then you not getting compensated for that.
There was some stuff over the last couple of days too that I also saw. There were stories by background actors, extras basically, that have gone to productions and they were scanned, and then their likenesses were used. And they had to sign these things. If you want to be an extra in our show now, you're going to get scanned, and then we get to basically use your likeness. Now, that doesn't really, if you're only going to be an extra once in your life, then, it's not a big deal. But there's a lot of people that break into the industry, maybe starting as an extra or a background actor, and then they become famous later. You've seen lots and lots of cases of this, but the fear from the actor's perspective is that if I do this and I get scanned and I'm in the background scene, and then later I become famous, they technically would have the rights to use that digital avatar, and they wouldn't have to pay me at all.
Right. Yeah. It's the fear of just not getting paid. And
Right.
I totally see it. I totally understand it, especially in the streaming industry today where everything's based off of residuals.
Well, not only that, but they're currently not getting paid from the streaming services. That was a
Right.
big deal. And I think that's the killer issue for the actors is that they've got to figure that out.
I thought it was I thought it was residuals though. They get
They get very
paid
little.
based off of how well it does or how many times it's viewed or something like that.
But it's minimal for things like
Right.
Netflix and Paramount Plus, and that have you noticed that's why all the studios are now going to that
Right.
instead of just sticking with the networks? Because if your TV show is rerun on a network,
Mm-hmm.
you get paid, a
residual.
You get paid residual.
something. Yeah.
The residuals for streaming services are so minimal and so bad
Yeah.
that there's been stories of actors that have been like, hey, I was on this hit TV show and here's my check for $5.
Right. See, like back in the day, like with movies, the success of it is based off of your tickets sold.
Yeah.
That's it. How many seats you can fill in a theater.
Yeah.
And then after that,
And there is a big disparity between the sort of the frontline, the average worker or the average actor who's trying to just make it in the
Right.
business. And obviously someone like Tom Cruise or some of these,
Right.
Scarlett Johansson and all of these other A-list actors. Yeah, they're getting a lot of money. And they're saying that the strike is not about them. It's more about
the smaller
someone who needs
yeah.
health insurance is only
Right.
making $20,000 a year.
Right. And then whenever, a movie is done cycling through theaters, what you used to have back then was then you have DVD releases.
Right.
And that's basically equivalent to having it be in the theater again as once things go to DVD.
Right.
But we don't
But
have
I think
that.
even
We don't have
at
it
the
anymore.
time before DVDs came out, a lot of these actors weren't getting paid on that. So the next contract then had to sort of take into effect what technology now exists and how do we make sure that the actors can get paid for those appearances. And I think when streaming first came out, this was probably now 10, 15 years that streaming has been around. They didn't have that ability. So that's why I think they're striking now, because they need to get paid for these streaming services, or that's it. You're not going to have a career as an actor. I also think that it's a good time to talk about AI now, rather than allowing these studios to sort of run roughshod over the actors. But on the other hand, I think actors need to understand that maybe some of these tools can and should be used to help speed up the production process. But there's still a lot of mistrust on both sides, which I think is why a lot of people think that this strike is going to go on for a long time. And the reason that I think you and I are talking about this too is that there's a lot of observers out there in other industries looking at this going, how are they going to settle this? And is this going to be a case of, I want to deploy AI in my company, and am I going to get pushback from the employees if they think that we're using this AI to drive, to take away jobs rather than sort of to drive efficiency and innovation. Everybody that I've talked to, from, the guests we've had on the show here to some other people, just, vendors and pitches and PR people, they're all using the right messaging. They're all telling me that it's about augmenting human sort of activity. So I haven't seen at least the approach from other companies of, oh yeah, we're going to use this because we don't like our accountants, or we don't like our sales staff. So we're going to use AI or we don't like our customer service reps. So we're going to use chatbots instead. And they've, those types of jobs have been tried before, pre-Gen AI, and those things were still horrible.
Yeah.
They're still not the best. At least the Gen I stuff might make it interesting for me to contact customer service through a chatbot rather than getting a human on the phone. I still think getting a human on the phone is the best way to do it.
It is the best way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just real quick, I was trying to find the article. I can't find it right now. But they listed the production companies who were actually investing in AI and the amount. I believe, and again, we can try to find it. It was Paramount, Warner Brothers, and another one. They invested, I think, millions in investing in AI. I could be wrong. Take it with a grain of salt. But I do want to try to find that article just to make sure I have that right. But it's real.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just.
Yeah,
it just validates that it's real. Like
they're definitely
investing in it.
They're definitely investing in it. You can see it with the de-aging technology that happens with a lot of these CGI type things. They're using AI to recreate a younger Harrison Ford, for example.
Or was it Carrie Fisher in what was the Rogue One? Was it Rogue One?
The Last Jedi?
Well, no, Rogue One.
Yeah. When she shows up at the end. Oh, spoilers.
Well, and I think, that was when she passed, I believe. So they generated her. Yeah. I believe so. Yeah. I don't
know if she had passed before that.
Rogue One.
Yeah.
Could be wrong on that too.
Yeah.
But anyways, they use tech to.
Well, and another reason this came up was because during all of this with the actor strike, there were some people that found that the Netflix and some of these studios are now advertising for AI positions. One job for an R&D Imagineer focused on generative AI is looking for someone who has, quote, the ambition to push the limits of what AI tools can create and understand the difference between the voice of data and the voice of a designer, writer, artist. The job promises a base salary of up to $180,000 per year with the possibility of bonuses or other compensation as well. Another job that was found, Netflix made some headlines after The Intercept noticed an AI product manager job that promises compensation of up to $900,000.
Jeez.
And so when you start advertising for this and then you tell your actors that you can't pay them money so that they can afford health insurance is a really bad look. So maybe they should hold off on hiring these AI people until you've settled this strike, maybe, but I don't know. Some people just have no idea about the public perception of what you're doing.
Yikes.
Here's another listing. Quote, wanted to find the next big thing in localizing content, enhancing content, or making it accessible using state-of-the-art generative AI and computer vision tech? This is for you, promising a base salary of up to $300,000.
What?
And this was at Amazon, I think.
And wait, so these are jobs in AI, right?
Yeah, but for studios.
So I mean, you probably have to have a background in development, app dev, or
it's probably
like that,
it's data science and artificial intelligence background. You'd have to understand what a large language model is. It's not like you and I are just going to go apply for this job and get that kind of money.
Right.
So I just think it's bad timing for the studios to sort of advertise for this while they're in the middle of a strike.
It's like, well, instead of investing in the tech, you could just invest in your writers. Just invest in good writers, right? And if I don't know, for some reason, if writers are overworked or whatever, then just hire more. Because I know a lot of movies and TV shows, they don't just use one writer; they have a team of writers.
Yeah,
so you implement the AI to take what would be the equivalent of 3 writers out of the room, and I just left with one. Well, you're gonna have that's gonna be a problem.
Yeah. Did you hear about the company that created an AI episode of South Park?
I think so. I think I did hear about that.
So there was a company that was using its technology to basically allow people to create almost individual personalized stories.
Yep.
And they did it with all of the characters from South Park. And they only used South Park to just sort of show the example of what you could do, because they're now going to pitch this to other studios and other movie makers and other kind of content creators as this is what you can do. And so it's not like they're creating AI episodes of a specific show. They were just using this as an example. But the people that have ended up they didn't publicly release sort of the results, because I think you would get into some copyright issues here. But from the articles that I've read, the people that saw it said wow, this stuff was really good. Like you could type in a prompt of, hey, have so-and-so do something, or, the boys on South Park end up meeting someone and, a chicken and a duck, and then write a story around it. And then the technology then utilizes other people and starts creating these scenes. And I was like, use that as a baseline for anything, and you could just start creating these. And we've seen some examples too of AI generated video, and right now, they look goofy and they're funny. I think everyone realizes the technology is going to get better.
Well, we did see the opening credit scenes for Secret Invasion. That was all done AI.
Right? I didn't watch that show because I heard it was so bad. But
I didn't watch it either. I just watched,
there was some hubbub about the opening credits being created by AI.
Yeah, and I mean, you can tell it looked like AI. They kind of took the AI. Watching an AI generated video has a certain imperfect style to it, because it looks like things are constantly changing in the frame. You could see the AI working, right? And the imperfections it's making kind of gives it that look of things are constantly moving, you know? And when you watch the opening title sequence for Secret Invasion, it's like, oh, that looks exactly like what all the other AI videos look like. It's just everything looks like it's shifting and changing. It's
and isn't that
weird.
sort of the uncanny valley that people talk about when you're trying to create CGI versions of a human? So if we were trying to create a computer generated version of me, you would be able to sort of tell that it's the closer you get to an actual human. They call there's an uncanny valley. There's this little valley where it looks either creepy or you can tell.
Yeah, I see. I see what you mean.
And the closer, the more you can sort of close that gap, the better the technology will become. And we sort of see that with AI's video. You see this morphing and blending because that's what the AI is programmed to do, is to sort of create that effect. But you can tell almost immediately that it's
right.
And again, even so, all of the stuff I do with Midjourney and Stable Diffusion, where I'm creating AI artwork, you know, if it has trouble with hands, and there are certain ways where the human can still tell whether something is AI generated or not. But those images that we showed of Mark Zuckerberg with a beard, those were all AI generated.
Right.
And if you would look hard, like we had admitted it up front, but you could tell that they were still fake images.
Yeah, you could tell.
And there's now discussions of AI watermarks so that you can tell, and that's good. I think that's a good sort of guardrail.
That's
to
a good
have.
step. That's a good step in the right direction.
There's one more story I want to briefly talk about that came out this week, was that Hasbro may be looking at AI for Dungeons and Dragons, which is sort of a melding of the nerdy worlds, both AI and D&D. This made headlines because a company that they purchased, Hasbro, which has the license for D&D, as well as Magic the Gathering, basically said that this partnership with a company named Xplord, XPLORED, would allow the company to, quote, deliver innovative gameplay to our players and fans, limitless digital expansions to physical games, seamless onboarding, and powerful AI-driven game mechanics.
I thought Wizards of the Coast was.
Well, it's a division of Hasbro.
Okay, I see. Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. Basically, then the site pressed them for more information. The guy from Hasbro said AI would be used to generate experiences that could react to player decisions right away and potentially streamline rules to make it easier on newer players. The partnership also lets Hasbro study the technology, particularly when it comes to another platform they were using. Hasbro is getting into this idea of sort of electronic digital tabletop gaming, so that if you have a bunch of friends that are playing D&D, you can use this sort of tabletop digital version and move your characters around on this virtual world and map.
Is it like a big screen?
It's a big. So I play with a bunch of other guys once a week, and he has this big monitor that's connected to his computer that he built a little case for, and he uses a program called Fantasy Grounds, which basically lets you upload a map. And then you have icons and you can sort of move it around on a 2D space so that you can plan your 3D battle, you know, when you're moving and where the spell range. And it's very nerdy. But what Hasbro is going to do is they want to create their own, so that the subscribers to D&D Beyond have to go and use or they don't have to, but they can go and use it, and then you can start seeing 3D development. Because sometimes when there was this one guy. This is a way off on a tangent, but there was this one guy in our party. He's no longer playing with us, but he was playing as a rogue, and the rogues are like the archers and the little halflings. And he goes, all right, so for my move, I'm going to jump up on this table. I'm going to do a backflip and then fire my arrow while I'm doing it, and then land in the superhero 3-point pose. And the DM is just like, well, I guess you got to roll and see if you succeed or not. And, you know, meanwhile, I'm like, I'm just going to cast Fireball. You don't care about, just has a range. And Anyway, so Hasbro's trying to do this, and I think that's where they're going to be implementing the AI, where I'm currently seeing AI implemented. And again, our friend who's the DM uses it. He uses it to ChatGPT to generate backstories for characters or comes up with ideas on running a campaign. He told me once that he actually had it act like a DM and he was trying to play D&D with ChatGPT. So there is some interesting things. Like I created a new character and I used Midjourney to create the sort of the look and feel for this guy, the character that I created. So there is that.
You lost me at DM. Do you mean direct message?
No, Dungeon Master.
Okay, gotcha.
See, you're just making fun of me, but I think you secretly have played this game. I know you played Diablo, so that's the video game equivalent of.
It's the closest. Well, it's the closest.
It's an action RPG.
Yeah.
D&D is very passive. It's a whole night just to get through one encounter or one battle. I think you would be very bored with sort of the slower pace of D&D.
Probably.
All right, so let's move on to our other story around AI, and this is a story that the FBI had issued a warning last week. They held a call with journalists to discuss how generative AI programs are also helping cyber criminals. The bad guys are now using it to develop malware and phishing attacks, and they are using free customizable open source models to do this. The official added that seasoned cyber criminals are exploiting the AI technology to develop new malware attacks and better delivery methods for them, including using AI-generated websites as phishing pages that can secretly deliver malicious computer code. The same technology is also helping hackers develop polymorphic malware, which can evade antivirus software. We talked about this on the show probably 5 or 6 months ago. I know we had the guy in from Boston College. Itay has talked about how he has seen malware that has been created. Again, when you can ask ChatGPT to write you code, it doesn't necessarily. You could take the guardrails off and tell it to write bad code or write malicious code that can use. And you and I both knew that phishing emails, which always had bad grammar and things like that, that's how you would tell if it was a phishing attempt. When you have something that can creatively write an email now, you're going to start seeing sort of those types of attacks. So stuff that we had predicted is now coming to. If the FBI is reporting on it, that it's out there. There was a couple of other things I want to talk about that the FBI also warned against. Last month, the FBI also warned that scammers are using AI image generators to create sexually themed deepfakes of victims in an effort to extort money from them. The exact scale of these various AI-powered schemes remains unclear, but the FBI agent added that the bulk of the cases the agency is seeing involve criminal actors using AI models to bolster their traditional schemes. This includes attempts to defraud loved ones or the elderly with scam phone calls using AI voice cloning tech. So they're using deep fakes to make it look like that like you were put in a compromising position. Whether, and again, I'm not saying. Well, the only thing I'll say about that is that if anybody tries to extort me with that, I just hope that the image that they use is better than what I really look like. I would almost be like, yeah, go ahead, release that to the world. I'm not going to pay you because that person looks a lot better than I do in real life. Right. That being said, I'm not endorsing that at all. But the AI voice phone call, I could certainly hear if my family, if I got a phone call. And it sounded like my son, my daughter, or one of my two daughters, or my wife. And they were like, "Hey, I got in a car accident. I
need money to get out.
I need money. Yeah. I was arrested. Help, whatever."
Yeah.
What would be my first instinct? Yeah. I don't know.
Well, so the thing is, I feel like those scams have already been around for a while.
Right. But you usually detect that it was not not the person.
I feel like these are targeted mostly to the elderly. And I mean, elderly, people who are maybe borderline Alzheimer's and stuff like that, where they'll call, someone who's compromised, right? And say like, "Hey, I'm your grandson. Remember me?
Yeah.
I'm in jail. I need bail money."
Right.
And they'll give them their account to deposit the money, to wire the money. And stuff like that can happen. I just think now with AI, I think you're going to see a lot more elderly people get scammed pretty easily, and even just your average Joe on the street now can easily get scammed because it's going to look like an email. Like, let's say you have Geico insurance. It'll look like it's from Geico. It'll have the watermarks, the border, and it'll have the copyright on the bottom. It'll make it really look official. So, yeah, I mean,
well, think about if I was going to target someone, and think about again with grandparents and say I figure out there's a 20-something millennial out there, and I figure out who that person's grandparent is. I'm like, I'm going to scam them. How do I get their voice? How do I get the 20-something-year-old's voice? Oh, all I do is check TikTok or check, social media. And now you've got countless number of videos that have their voice on it.
Yeah.
So now you can just download all of that audio and then create a voice and then call up their grandparents and write whatever you want to have them say and scam them out of the money.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is happening right now.
Oh, it definitely is happening. I'm sure it's definitely happening right now. I think that in order to prevent that or stop, it's almost like you cannot trust anybody at any time. It's almost, you have to develop a zero trust. The first thing I do if I'm getting a phone call, I'm checking the number, and then I'm actually checking, especially my daughter, who I can track with the iPhone. I can then see if that iPhone is coming from the location where they're telling me they are, and then I'm calling the police, and then seeing if it's almost like it's 3-factor authentication. I'm going to be like, I don't believe you until I've verified these other 3 facts.
Yeah.
It is a shame that's what people are doing instead of using artificial technology for good. That they're going to use it to try to make money off of people. But that's the world. That's life, right?
Right. It's sad.
All right. So be aware out there if you are if you hear that your grandparents or grandchildren are in trouble, it might be a scam. All right, moving on. I wanted to discuss, there was a couple of stories this week in the Wall Street Journal. They were reporting that deadly incidents involving e-bike batteries, EVs, and laptops catching fire are now raising more concerns about the status of lithium-ion batteries. We've talked about this on the show in previous episodes. We've gotten some heat, so to speak, from people that were thinking that we were anti-EVs when we were talking about this.
I see what you did there. Huh.
The heat, yeah. This is a really cool graphic that the Wall Street Journal put out in terms of how an EV battery can catch fire. The interesting part is that once you do this, you can't scroll out of it. So good luck, Chris. Right there.
It's getting there.
Did you get it out? Did you figure it out?
Hold on. There you go. It's heating up right now. Oh, yeah. Heats up. Short circuits. Boom.
So there's been a rising number of incidents, and including a lot of ones that have killed some people, where lithium-ion batteries in e-bikes have exploded and caused a lot of damage. And a lot of these have the potential to fail when damaged, overcharged, or operated in extreme temperature conditions. E-bike batteries, though, are much bigger, between 50 to 100 times more than the ones in our personal electronics. And the e-bike ones especially pose a greater risk. For example, on May 20th, a folding bike in a South London apartment began smoking. Then within seconds, an inferno erupted. According to Dom Ellis, Deputy Commissioner for the London Fire Brigade, the bike's owner purchased it secondhand to commute to work and bought an aftermarket battery from an unspecified online marketplace. So that's the results of the fire. Now, there's a video below that. Just watch like how quickly.
Security footage.
This is just a security cam, and the guy goes over to check the bike, and then in like seconds, like that is scary. How quickly that sorts of and the problem with the batteries is that the components in the battery start fueling itself, and it takes fire officials a longer time to sort of put out the fires.
Yeah, it continues to burn, even if you put water on it.
Now, according to this, the article did sort of point out, this kicks off a vicious cycle called thermal runaway. The melting battery materials fuel the flames, emitting more heat, and that heat also creates a flammable gas. In other words, when a battery breaks down, the fire is self-sustaining and extremely hot. Now, electric cars also contain lithium-ion batteries, but fires are less common compared with e-bikes. Cars have cooling systems and their batteries are more protected, and any EV battery replacements would also likely take place through authorized service facilities. E-bikes, on the other hand, don't have temperature regulators, and their batteries are more exposed to the environment and possible impact, so even minor manufacturing flaws can become severe problems. This is according to a professor at the University of Michigan, I believe, who was talking about this. A professional mechanical engineering at the University of Michigan. Cheaper batteries often suffer from defects and low quality control. So this article was basically saying that so what's happening because of all these fires is that cities and apartments and other places are starting to have to regulate where these things can be stored. And you've got signs up that go up. You say you can't go beyond a certain point. Because again, I think earlier this year, there were 4 people that were killed in an apartment fire because of an e-bike battery.
I mean, look at this. This is a e-bike repair shop that caught on fire from one of the e-bikes. That's insane.
Yeah.
Like, is it because of quality control? Like,
well, it's
I know you mentioned third-party batteries, right? And the quality control might be lesser, but I don't know. Is this strictly just a quality control issue, or?
I think that if you are looking at the cost of the battery, and if you want a different battery, you look for a cheaper alternative. You might go with some place that's not certified as well as the original maker of the battery.
Because like in all of our phones are lithium-ion batteries, and
yes, but they're small. They're a lot smaller than what you would have on an e-bike.
Sure. But even when you look at your phone, have you ever noticed if you leave it out in the sun on a hot day?
Yeah.
When you go to use your phone, it's all of a sudden it's off.
Yeah.
It's because it'll shut off. It's a safety
and the back
feature.
of it is hot as heck.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe they just need to build in that feature in a lot of the batteries and third-party batteries.
Well, okay.
For e-bikes. You know what I mean?
I'm sure that there's probably going to be some efforts on trying to cool down the batteries for an e-bike manufacturer, but I can tell you that the third-party manufacturer is probably not going to do it. Because you're trying to keep that cost lower to make the appeal for the aftermarket.
Right, because the way it looks like is, like with the e-bike fires, it just seems like people are just taking these batteries and strapping it to the bike, plugging it in, and, hoping nothing happens. So, I don't know, maybe there just needs to be better design, better engineering behind it. I don't know. I'm not a e-bike expert, but I don't know, makes me think.
So they did actually offer some safety tips. And I just want to repeat them so that anybody watching this, maybe get some. Yeah, here we go. Use the original battery and charger. If you need an extra, stick to the same brand. Check the battery and battery plug for damage. If you see frayed cables on the charger or a bulge on the battery, hear crackling or hissing, or smell something bad and sulfuric, don't charge the e-bike. I would be like, run away. Like if you hear any of that.
Basically.
Yeah. Limit charging sessions to an hour. Don't leave your bike or battery unattended. And don't keep this near flammable materials such as house paint. And then charging, battery should only be charged at temperatures between 41 and 77 degrees. That could have been a problem here the last few weeks where it was
very well could be
80 to 90 degrees. That could be a problem. So, and then if the bike does catch on fire, don't use a household fire extinguisher. Just get out and call 911. Basically,
at that point, it's run away.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder too if they even have overcharge protection on them. That's a basic feature in a lot of lithium-ion batteries, just overcharge.
But again, this is probably something that hasn't been regulated to the point where maybe that will start happening, and we'll start to see more and more. Or I'm wondering if you'll start seeing e-bike bans in certain areas. I guess if you're in an apartment building, you probably are banned from storing an e-bike downstairs somewhere.
Or if you live on like the 3rd or 4th floor. Because once it goes off, boom, fire's only going to go up.
Yeah.
That's
fire goes up.
Yeah.
All right. Now this was not intentional, but I do want to talk about other EVs. So this is not, we're not sort of saying that one causes the other. But another thing I did want to talk about was the launch of a family EV. Do you have the story up? I don't have it here.
Yeah, it's right here. It's the Kia.
This was from a couple of weeks ago. Companies are now exploring the next sort of area for electric vehicles. which is the third row SUV type family vehicle. And what do I have here? Yeah. The new area for electric vehicle makers is the quote-unquote family hauler, a large 3-row SUV. Car companies are planning to roll out several 7-seater electric SUVs, such as the Kia EV9 and Volvo EX90, expected in showrooms in coming months. Auto executives saying introducing larger plug-in SUVs will broaden the appeal of EV ownership to a new pool of buyers. Many car shoppers, especially parents who shuttle children around town, have bypassed electrics because they haven't had the option for a larger vehicle with the third row of seating and more cargo space. So now makers are understanding that there's a lot of people that have families. This includes me. I have 3 kids. They're now teenagers, but at the time, 10 years ago, we were shuttling them all around in the minivan, and there were no real EV alternatives for us. So and still not. There is an interesting story or an interesting stat here that I think you'll enjoy. There was just one large 7-seat electric SUV on sale in the U.S. for model years 2022 and 2023, according to J.D. Power. And this was the Mercedes-Benz EQS, priced at, $105,000.
Oh, that's nothing. That's nothing. That's easy.
Talk about wanting to price yourself out of the market.
It's a good portion of your house mortgage.
Yeah, because that's what families have lying around the house. We have a whole $105,000.
Yeah.
Especially these days. Like that was sarcasm, by the way. Like, when dinner costs $100 to go out, like that's the prices. And of course, they didn't mention the prices of the newer stuff that's coming out. But it's probably going to be
around
60 to 70,000, right?
Well, because you got to think about it. If it's a vehicle that is going to seat how many, 5, 6 extra passengers in it, maybe?
Yeah.
Right? 3 rows?
Well, yeah, we've got the third row and we've got 5 people. And, and then we truck around, if we truck around their friends, you can get up to 7 people.
Yeah. So, they're going to have to take into account the added weight. That's going to be added to the EV range. You're going to have a larger battery.
The EV range is going to be about 5 miles.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm kidding. I'm not serious there.
The car is going to have to, compensate for weight, because it's going to be heavier, larger battery. So, it's a lot of things to think about when designing it.
So the rollout of bigger SUVs will also represent a test of Americans' readiness to go electric with vehicles that are more likely to be used for road trips. And we've talked about this before, where finding available charging stations can be a logistical challenge and will lengthen the travel times. This is a quote. "I think there will be a lot of skepticism among consumers about how suitable a family EV will be for a road trip," said Ed Kim, president of automotive research firm Auto Pacific. Yeah, I think that would be. Yeah, again, the first thing for me as a family guy, cost, and then the next one would be how long can I go in this van SUV?
Yeah, right.
Because I'm not using it for commuting. We're using it for drives around town to pick up, drop off, take friends around to wherever, and then the second one would be longer trips to grandma's house or the beach or things like that for the long road trip. So if the EV market is getting into more of the family vehicles, what do we call them now? FEVs? The family EV? FEV? Call it, give it some so it would be called
marketing
like
term.
SWAVE, Sport Utility Electric Vehicle, SUEV.
The Sport Family
SUEV.
Electric Vehicle, the SFEV.
Yeah, I think whenever you add an F and a U to something, it's probably not a good acronym.
SFEV or the FEV. There we go.
I can tell you're excited about that news.
Super excited.
All right, one last story. Getting back to sort of some technology that we do understand. Intel has returned to profit due to PC rebound lifting chip demand. Intel shares soared last week as a resurgent personal computer market helped it bounce back from 2 quarters of record losses as it forecast new demand from the artificial intelligence boom. The $1.5 billion in profit defied analysts' expectations of another loss. It came after the $2.76 billion shortfall that Intel reported the previous quarter, the worst ever recorded for the storied chip maker. CEO Pat Gelsinger said the company was on track with an ambitious turnaround plan articulated when he took the helm more than 2 years ago. He said demand for AI was poised to boost PC and data center divisions that have languished in recent quarters. So good for Intel. That's all I'm going to say. Right?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to do something. Because, I mean, as we saw with NVIDIA,
Yep.
They're just dominating right now. And again, I know they don't make CPUs, but still,
They make
as
GPUs
a semiconductor
and-
company, you know, they sell chips. They're going to have to do something.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is, but
even AMD's all in on AI. There's a lot of companies that are now going all in on AI, and up until now we haven't really seen that from Intel. And so it's good that the demand is back. I know that within the last year or so there was the supply chain shortage of chips. I feel like we're sort of out of those woods. So good for Intel. I just don't know if that means that the future is bright and rosy for Intel, but it is good to see that at least they've stopped the slide.
Yeah, I mean the competition's there. It's there.
Yeah.
I mean they're just going to have to keep up with top performing chips. They're just going to have to bring it.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know what else to say about it. Like they're going to have to keep competing with AMD. I know NVIDIA again they don't make CPUs, but
GPUs.
Still, yeah, GPUs. They're still somewhat competing. So. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
And it's all about AI anyway.
Yeah,
So.
exactly.
All right, Chris, thanks again for catching us up on the news.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, that's all the time we've got for today's episode. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, add any thoughts that you have below. Join us every week for new episodes of Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Thanks for watching.